We're on a journey from field to fork.
By 2050, there are expected to be 10 billion people on the planet. How to feed everyone is a profound question for the whole world and is set to transform farming in the decades ahead.
You feel like you are part of the change that could transform the way people eat.
From preserving water, the lifeblood that feeds the crops.
We've increased our water use efficiency by over 33% in the 20 years.
To regenerating the very soil they grow in.
This is a liquid fermenter that allows us to scale just a little bit of microbes into a lot of microbes.
From sustainable and safe food.
Welcome to the largest vertical farm in the world.
To protecting the environment and reducing waste.
It's an amazing feeling to see that you can contribute to something that will change the world.
To explore how innovation and modern agriculture are leading the way.
It's fundamentally a game changer for farmers around the world.
To reform our land and diet and connecting farmer to consumer. In this episode, we'll explore the challenges facing our ability to ensure healthy, nutritious food is made available to everyone on the planet, from producing alternative megacrops to creating climate change-ready, protein-rich staples.
Welcome to Follow the Food. With so many mouths to feed, the question should not just be whether we're producing enough food, but whether we are producing the best food. The challenge across the developed and developing world is to make food that is healthy, tasty, nutritious, and affordable.
After steadily declining for over a decade, the number of undernourished people in the world is on the rise again, reaching an estimated 821 million in 2017. It's a figure that represents 1 in every 9 people on the planet. Key drivers behind the rise are complex, but if we are to prepare our current food systems for a rapid growth in global population, we need to reverse this trend, and quickly. An over-reliance on too few crops and a need to improve the nutritional content of existing crops is essential to improve diets in the developed world as well as the developing world. Obesity is as big a concern as food insecurity. To find out what's being done to prepare against these external factors, Greg Foote has headed to Rome to meet Jose Graziano da Silva, Director General of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization.
We have only 30 growing seasons left before 2050. What do you think we need to do in that relatively short period of time to be able to feed everyone with nutritious food?
People would expect me as a Director General of Food and Agriculture Organization to say, we need to produce more food. No, if we continue to produce more food, we will throw more food out because we don't need more food to be produced. Nowadays, about 40% of what we eat come from 3 crops: corn, wheat, and rice. 3 staple foods. In our history, we have more than 4,000 species that were utilized for food production. Nowadays, we have about 100. So we lost all this diversity. We need to bring back the diversity of food production. We need more research at country level, at the local level, be involved in producing these different species, different kinds of food that adapt better to that condition. We cannot adapt the weather to our needs. We need to adapt our needs to the weather. That is the change, the big change for the future.
Like Jose Graziano said, the 3 predominant crops are corn, wheat, and rice. But close behind is the humble chickpea, which feeds over 1 billion people. But its future as a staple food is uncertain. At the University of California, Davis, a team of scientists are working on producing a super chickpea by crossbreeding commercial varieties with their wild cousins that could hold a wealth of superior genetic traits that would future-proof the crop. Professor Douglas Cook is the project lead. What is the problem with chickpeas? What are you trying to solve for or make better?
One of the problems is the reduced variation in cultivated. The amount of variation that a breeder has to work with is their toolbox. The more variation they have, the more challenges they can solve.
Since we're growing different varieties of chickpeas in different climates, doesn't it mean that someone has already figured out which from the wild are best for each of these places?
Well, the answer is no. Humans selected a very small number of individuals that became the crop. And through that random process, most of the variation was left behind.
So we left all kinds of potential behind.
Was never even tested or examined.
Doug's trailblazing research spans continents, but the focus of his hunt for the toughest and most superior wild varieties centers on the origin of the chickpea in southeastern Turkey. How do you find wild chickpeas to work with?
We already knew that the wild species is confined to a small geographical region. It's about 100,000 square kilometers, and it's bounded by natural barriers. So we used some climate modeling to identify areas that were most likely habitats. And then we drove around southeastern Turkey with permission of the Turkish government and made collections. We need 5 plants. Okay, here's one. Perfect, okay. Let's get those.
And how many did you collect?
We collected seed and DNA initially from about 1,000 individuals, and then in subsequent prospecting, another approximately 2,000.
Wow.
Yeah. But those plants weren't designed to be functional agricultural systems, so the challenge to breeders and geneticists is to find those traits in the background of all the other genes in the genome and find the winners, the gems, and move them in. When you make crosses between 2 chickpeas, it's like making crosses between 2 humans. No set of children are the same, right?
Right.
And our goal is to figure out what makes one better than the other, and then eventually to breed for that stable set of traits.
Can we go now to take a look at your lab, see where it's all done?
Yes, please.
All right. Of the 120 known plant species cultivated for human food, relying on just wheat, rice, and corn for more than 60% of our calorie and protein intake is seen by some as a risky strategy. Doug and the Feed for the Future Innovation Lab want to change that by plowing efforts into ensuring a high-yielding, climate-resilient chickpea. With approximately 14 million metric tons produced annually, this legume is already a major provider of protein to diets around the world. Explain to me what's going on here.
We have 2 different species of chickpea, a wild progenitor, separated by about 10,000 years from the domesticated variety here. This wild species is tolerant or resistant to a soil fungus, and this cultivated species is highly susceptible. But the cultivated species has other desirable traits, early flowering, upright growth, and so on. And we'd like to combine them and get the best of both.
So what else could you be breeding for?
Well, these particular plants also differ in their ability to enrich the soil in nitrogen. That capacity to be more efficient and effective with the use of nitrogen in the wilds also imbues them with the ability to put better protein content into their seeds.
To determine the exact characteristics of each plant, scientists use molecular analysis to sequence the genetic code, revealing the secrets of its genetic makeup. Once the jackpot plant with traits from both parents has been found, it is reproduced for further analysis until it's suitable for farmers to use. What successes have you seen?
Increased protein content, increased nitrogen fixation, disease resistance, resistance to insect pests, drought tolerance, heat tolerance, cold tolerance, the ability to tolerate acid soils, which affects about 50% of arable lands. Each one of those things has a story behind it that could shift chickpea production in very important ways.
The focus on protein content is certainly something that could future-proof the chickpea, not just as a dependable food source, but also as a way of improving the land for the next generation who work it. By rediscovering varieties that had been forgotten, Doug and his team have been able to build up an arsenal of crops that have the potential to combat some of the biggest threats to our farming future.
Making sure the food we grow is the best version of itself will be vital to tackling world hunger in the coming years.
After the break, we continue to search out those innovators creating crops to tackle the issues of undernutrition, whether through a lack of food or poor diet, that we could be relying upon in years to come.
What's the quality of the super tomato?
This super tomato is super because of the highest level of lycopene among all commercial hybrids.
As our global population rises, increasing pressure is being placed on our already struggling food system.
In order to meet the nutritional needs of future populations, scientists and growers are teaming up to produce food crops that maximize for both quantity and quality. Whether it's through conventional plant breeding or modern biotechnology,
we are finding out what crops are being cultivated to meet the complex and often varied nutritional requirements of both the developed and developing worlds in the future. Continuing our journey, Priscilla Brandão is in Brazil to find out what work is underway by this major food exporter to help create healthy and nutritious food for the global as well as the local markets. One particular project aims to help farmers grow new breeds of crops, as well as food staples like wheat, corn, and rice, which are packed with extra vitamins. The process of creating these superfoods is known as biofortification.
Today, more than 2 billion people across the globe are starved by essential vitamins and minerals, leading to a host of health problems, including anemia, blindness, and stunted growth. Here in the state of Maranhão, they've invested in biofortification projects to improve the nutrition of some of Brazil's poorest people. I've come to IFMA, the Federal Science and Technology Institute campus in Codó, Maranhão, to meet José Luiz Viana de Carvalho of Harvest Plus. He works closely with family-run farms, helping them to introduce biofortified crops to their land. E como que funciona esse melhoramento do alimento aqui no Brasil?
No caso do nosso projeto, são 3 das maiores carências mundiais: ferro, zinco, no caso do caupi, e provitamina A em outros alimentos. É mais uma ferramenta para combater a fome oculta, ou seja, aquela fome que você se alimenta, mas não se nutre.
Here at Maranhão Federal Institute, cowpea seeds are developed and then distributed to farms in the local area for cultivation. Not only do they produce the seeds on site here, but they also grow the biofortified crop and serve it to their students to improve their poor diet. Joycilane Ribeiro is a nutritionist working closely with young people on the BioFort project.
Para nossa população no Maranhão, é interessante esse feijão biofortificado como uma maneira de prevenir a anemia, né, nesses adolescentes, e o zinco como uma forma de fortalecer o sistema imunológico. Então, esse feijão ele tem uma relevância muito grande diante da insegurança alimentar que o estado do Maranhão, né, é inserido.
A maioria desses adolescentes, quando chega aqui, vem mal com o café da manhã. E esse café, muitas das vezes, só é um café puro com a farinha. E o alimento, o feijão caupi, como já é um alimento biofortificado, já rico em nutrientes, supre a necessidade do organismo delas.
O feijão caupi ele me deixa mais vigoroso, com mais disposição física para levar o meu dia a dia bem.
O sabor é bom, não faz diferença de outro feijão, ele vai ser consumido sem nenhuma diferença de qualquer outro feijão. O sabor é um feijão saboroso.
It's believed that over 20 million people worldwide are currently consuming biofortified crops in a bid to prevent deficiencies in essential vitamins and minerals. It's hoped biofortified staples like rice, wheat, maize, and sweet potato will continue to contribute to the nourishment of our growing global population. But what effect it is having on the farmers, whose job it is to grow these crops? Farmer Jean is a family farmer in the city of Codó, in Brazil, and has been growing caupi with the help of José and his team. É mais caro plantar e colher e manter a plantação desses produtos?
Você plantando e comercializando chega mais barato na mesa do consumidor e você vê o retorno mais rápido também no seu bolso, porque é um produto de ótima qualidade e a gente não tem dificuldade em vender.
O senhor está orgulhoso de fazer parte disso? O senhor está melhorando a saúde das crianças, das pessoas mais pobres no Brasil?
A gente que planta, a gente não só vende, a gente serve a todo, que vai para a mesa. Então, eu me sinto orgulhoso por causa disso.
Nutrient deficiency is an invisible form of hunger that millions around the world suffer from, not just in Latin America. But thanks to bold investments in some parts of Brazil, biofortified superfoods could eventually provide a nutritional solution to all areas of the country desperately in need. If it works, it's hoped governments in other countries with similar issues will also embrace these practices to make biofortification more mainstream. While tackling localized hunger will continue to be a priority for Brazil in the future, this major food producer is also looking to bolster an annual export market worth almost $100 billion by securing its position in one particular global food market. Tomatoes. These sweet fruits are eaten and enjoyed all over the world, and they can also contain some hidden health benefits too. The pigment that gives the tomato its bright red color is called lycopene, an antioxidant that has been linked in preventing some types of cancer. Here in Brasilia, researchers have developed a new super breed of tomato with high lycopene levels, which have never been seen before. Pioneering work at Embrapa's National Center for Vegetable Crop Research has created a new generation of hybrid grape tomato known as BRS Zamir. Sweet, aromatic, and jam-packed with lycopene, the tomato is also high-yielding, offering Brazilian farmers the chance to offer up a unique product into a global tomato seed industry, worth over $950 million in 2018. Dr. Leonardo Boatê is the agronomist and lead researcher responsible for this breakthrough. How do you get this hybrid?
This hybrid is done by the cross of two inbred lines. You have, for example, one very nice productive tomato, you cross with a high lycopene. What you want to get in the hybrid is a combination of yield and lycopene production. You have one set of genes in one parent, another set of useful genes in the other parent, and the hybrid, you have the best of the two worlds.
This conventional crossbreeding process is done manually, where pollen is extracted from the male part of one plant and placed onto the female part of the other to create a new crop variety with the desirable traits.
This is a very specialized work. In nature, it's more random.
The result was Brazil's first hybrid grape tomato. What's the quality of this super tomato?
Yeah, this super tomato is super because of the highest level of lycopene among all commercial hybrids. Zamir has 144 micrograms per gram, comparing to 40 to 50 in the other regular tomatoes. This is important because lycopene is a most potent antioxidant in nature.
So it's a big difference.
It's a big difference because it's 3 times more than the regular tomatoes.
A naturally occurring chemical found in many red-colored fruit and vegetables, it has been suggested that lycopene could protect against cell damage in the human body, as well as offering numerous additional health benefits, although to date scientific evidence remains inconclusive. If though further study proves the claims correct, then this tomato could have global appeal, particularly in the health-conscious developed world. Tested all over Brazil, the Zamir crop is perfectly suited to the country's tropical climate, compared to foreign varieties developed for milder climates and greenhouse settings. Once the perfect grape tomato plant had been achieved, the seeds were sold and developed commercially. I'm going to meet one farmer who is reaping the benefits of BRS Zamir. How long have you been using these hybrid crops here?
3 anos. 3 anos que eu trabalho com Zamir.
If you compare to the other variety, what is the production for this hybrid one?
Ah, conseguia, acho que nem a metade. Nem a metade consegui. E esse aqui eu consegui até 9 quilos por planta. Mas, com certeza, mais dinheiro. Aí, acho que uns 80% a mais.
Is it easier to sell these tomatoes?
É mais fácil. O meu é bem mais fácil. Não tem outro não. Eu vendo toda a minha produção. Não sobra nada. O pessoal faz brigar aí por causa do meu tomate.
Brazil's hybrid grape tomato is a good example of a crop that offers food security to a growing population and one in which is also perfectly adapted to the climate in which it's grown. So sweet. That's delicious. The grape tomato is a product which seems to be working well on Brazilian family farms. And thanks to pioneering research, not only does Brazil have a bountiful variety they can call their own, but a fruit that has the potential to prevent the development of some of life's most threatening diseases.
In the future, whether it is for food-poor communities who demand more nutritious crops, or food-rich communities who care about added health benefits across the developed and developing world,
if we can use cutting-edge science and technology to grow abundant, nutritious food perfectly suited to the environment in which it's needed most, hopefully it will go some way to ensuring global food security for years to come. With so many mouths to feed as the global population grows, the question for farmers and consumers should not just be whether we have enough food, but whether we are producing the best food. Find out more at bbc.com/followthefood.